Hey everyone, good morning. Wow, the last 2 weeks, hey? They've been, at least for me, they've definitely been a lot. Just finishing getting set up here. Now, before we get started here, lost my train of thought there for a hot minute. I just want to note that it is raining where I am, so if you're hearing those, rain noises, that's what's going on, because you know what? We live in the real world, and that's just the way that it rolls. Now, if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, we had jumped right on in here to this episode of GraysMatter podcast. It is where Justin is on a panel talking about the concept of artificial people in science fiction. So we're just gonna, just because of things have been going for me, I have zero memory of what they were talking about when we left them. So this will be jogging my memory just as much as it's going to be jogging yours. So let's just, actually, you know what I'm going to do really quickly? I'm pretty sure I'm sharing my system audio, but I just want to make sure that is the case here. Okay. Yes. All right. Definitely sure. Sweet. All right. Well, let's just dive right into this then. Oh, you don't need to see that. You know I'm sharing my screen. I know I'm sharing my screen. We don't need to be reminded.
What you said just reminded me of the replicants from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Very much.
You androids dream of electric sheep.
Yes, indeed, right, which is,
Okay.
but, and then interestingly, there's a manga out there that has created life forms that I love, which I wouldn't expect anybody here to know, but it's in a similar situation where they were created to fight a war. The war is over. They also have shortened lifespans. They'll live to be about 30. And they all are tagged with military tags their whole lives. It's called Gangsta. It's really good, but it's another one where they're also treated as second-class citizens because in their case, in order to activate their superpowers, they're controlled by drugs which are owned by the government. So there's an interesting set of problems to their humanity.
The Jem'Hadar and Deep Space Nine were created by the founders and controlled by drugs.
Yeah,
So
that's
I was
another
just
common.
thinking about the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah, there's
What
also,
sympathetic
I'm also thinking
characters.
about the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined Battlestar Galactica. Cylons were created by mankind that they rebelled. They're also in the state.
I'm just finishing up the series, and there's this really, if you haven't done it, catch the conversation between, what's his name, Cavill, and between Ellen. And he argues, why didn't you make me into a machine so that I could see X-rays and experience the universe with the full sensory gambits? And she goes, we made you this way so that you could know humanity.
Interesting.
It's an interesting feel. It's one of the best scenes in the whole series.
I remember that, actually, yeah.
Long time ago, Poul Anderson wrote.
All right. We're just going to see if we can't get rid of that throat clear in a clean, relatively clean fashion here. So let's see just how it sounds here.
Scenes in the whole series.
I remember that, actually, yeah.
Long time ago, Poul Anderson
that
wrote
sounds
the
okay.
story called
Yeah.
Call Me Joe.
Yes.
And they're a disabled
I know
person on
that
a Jovian
Orville
moon
gets a lot of hate. But I'm also thinking
telepathic
about the
or
Kalon
some kind of
in that
contact
whole story
with
arc.
the artificial being
I don't know.
on the
I like
surface
the
of
Orville.
Jupiter, who
It's
is
a good
very
show.
muscular and can, operate in 2.5 Gs and all of this.
Let's see.
Operate in 2.5 Gs and
Let's see. There's a bunch of uhs like right in a row. So we're just gonna see how does it sound here now if I get rid of that.
Operate in 2.5 Gs and all of this. And he becomes, he likes being strong.
Let's see.
And 2.5 Gs and all of this. And he becomes, he likes being strong.
So here's what I'm gonna do here, because I think that a gap would be helpful, but not one that is quite this long, right? Like this is a couple of seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, but then I'm going to go up to, let's see, edit. And we're just going to insert like a very little bit of silence. To see how does that feel,
And he becomes, he likes being strong. And
maybe even like a little more of a beat there.
And he becomes, he likes being strong and likes being independent and all
I feel
and
okay
healthy
about that.
and all of that. And he ends
Yeah.
up transferring his personality to this being on the surface of Jupiter.
Which is what, when they had an Avatar
Yeah.
film come out, I thought they were basing it on that, and they didn't mention that short story at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw a hand up over here.
Oh,
Here we go. And also welcome to the person who joined us here just a little while ago. I'm glad that you're here.
Basing it on that, and they didn't mention that short story at all.
oh, yeah.
I think I saw a hand up over here.
Oh, yeah, okay, I got a head in the way. Yes, go ahead.
So there's a lot of stuff that, especially I think during the 60s, where it was quite clear that the artificial people were basically slaves. And maybe this is more 1970s, but for example, Robert Silverberg's Tower of Glass.
Oh man, that's snacking.
Has artificial people figured out that.
I don't know if you guys remember from a couple of weeks ago. I tried to do a sound capture on that rapper Crickly, and it was unfortunately not particularly fruitful.
Have sexual relationships with them, and one of the main characters not only falls in love with one of the falls in love with
A little bit better there.
one of the artificial people, but they also have some sort of drug that allows you to kind of share your memories and experiences with other people, and there's stuff coming in because people that leaks and all the societal.
I honest to goodness think that people don't really realize how much their microphones pick up when they're in these types of settings.
Societal impact because of finding out that he's a pervert, basically. there's John Brunner's Infamous Lake Nebula, where the artificial beings aren't actually artificial beings. But they dupe society into thinking that they are, so it's okay to have them be slaves. And then going back to Cujo.
Just try to get rid of some of these, clicks so that this guy's question can come through a little bit better.
The people who are who cloned Mark are also cloning other people.
One thing I'm curious about is if they're going to talk about the Doctor in Voyager, like Star Trek Voyager at all. I hope so. That was a great story arc. There's no doubt about it.
Specifically to do brain transplants, and they are actually indoctrinating the children to think that that is their purpose. And for example, Mark goes in and tries to kidnap.
Sorry, my back is a little bit janky right now.
And some of them don't want to go because they believe that their purpose in life is just to give their body to whoever they're being cloned. And then finally, the ancillary series by Ann Leckie is basically
itchy ear.
about a AI that is puts its consciousness AI that is puts its consciousness into human bodies to do ship functions, and because it disobeyed, it ended up they didn't kill the AI, but the AI. They didn't kill the AI, but the AI is now only in a single person instead of a group of 10 like it. So,
Yeah. In Frankenstein, the modern.
Let's see.
In Frankenstein, the modern Prometheus, Frankenstein's creation is not the lumbering Hulk that you see in the movies. They got a head with a brain. The lumbering Hulk that you see in the movies. They got a head with a brain for this guy, and he talks and he
Excuse me.
interacts and all of that. He's very ugly, and he's treated badly because he's ugly, and eventually rebels against his treatment. Treated badly because he's ugly, and eventually rebels against his treatment. But that was the one of the, I'm supposed to. But that was the. Eventually rebels against his treatment. But one of the, I'm supposed there are magical creature creations to be before that, and legends and myths and all of that. But that was really the first one I'm aware of where any sort of scientific justification or was given for the creation.
I feel like the moral of the story for Frankenstein is don't be a bad parent.
Yeah, that's what I did, yeah.
Frankenstein, the monster clearly sees Dr. Frankenstein as his father, and he's rejected, like utterly, utterly rejected, and like messes him up. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it's been re-explored. And I can't remember, there was a mini series where they do.
Penny Dreadful.
Thank you, Penny Dreadful. Right, that was fascinating. Where Frankenstein goes by Proteus and they sort of explore the concept of the terrible parent in a very interesting way. That one was really hard, actually, too, if I recall. It's like,
But you realize that the monster who grew attached to the woman, right, and when it became obvious that she was under assault by dark forces, did nothing to save her.
well, yeah, I know. It's tough. It was a tough show. It was an
a good
interesting show.
which show was
It's
it?
called Penny Dreadful.
They finally got Dorian Gray right. I mean,
Yeah.
but they were confusing the character with the author. They
Yeah.
kind of blended both of those characters. If you put both of them together, they caught the character.
Yeah.
There's an interesting photo for this, just thinking about it.
Let's see. How is that going to sound now?
There's an interesting for this.
Shoot. Okay. I want to try that one more time. Like, we don't need. I think it's going to have to stay.
For this, just thinking about in terms of Frankenstein in particular. I think Frankenstein is one of those stories that gets retold a lot, like in various different formats.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of a lot of different, I mean, I joked it as a story about parenting, but it's also a story about like creating something you can't control, which is the basis of a lot of science fiction. Honestly.
Yeah.
The creating.
parenting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, but I mean, Frankenstein is in many versions sort of supernaturally strong and scary, and you know, your kids they take a long time to get strong.
super strong and scary. They're scary right away, but.
But there's a long period of time when you can physically overpower them if you have to.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Mary Shelley's mother died shortly after she was born, and her relationship with her father was very interesting in terms of both controlling and over controlling. So that makes for some interesting reading and background. She had experienced bad.
Here.
Interesting reading and background. She had experienced bad parenting
I feel pretty good
firsthand.
about that cut.
Yeah. Why do you think? Yeah. She had experienced bad parenting firsthand. Why do you think
I think it's fair to say most of us have.
so many authors
Yeah.
simply
Forget that
assume
parents are humans.
that artificial
Too.
people, clones,
So we can always do better, but
people
I don't know.
just
I
stated
struggle
with
with the phrase bad
characteristics,
parenting.
that would be useful. There's a wonderful book. I'm sorry. It takes place on a.
Let's see. That doesn't really add much, I'd say.
There's a wonderful book. I'm sorry. It takes place on a water world, and the people are genetically engineered to have gills and all of that. It's by Carol Severance. It's we'll think of it in a bit, but the immediate assumption is.
Go.
But the immediate assumption is that they're going to be treated badly by, quote, normal, unquote, human beings. And just because they are artificial. Quote, normal, unquote, human beings. And just because they are artificial. And Heinlein does that, and other people do. And Heinlein does that, and other people do. And why is that?
Why do we assume the worst about humanity?
Oh, golly, I wonder.
Well, okay, is there stories where they're not?
Well, okay, I will say, when I was thinking about real world examples, and like, I remember when the first baby was born from IVF, right, baby Louise, and there was all these hand-wringing news articles like, will she be really human? Like, will people treat her as human? And like, yeah, she was just a baby, and then she grew up, and like, at some point, actually, I think, like, spoke publicly, and was like, yeah, I think it's really cool it was the first baby born from IVF. And it's really routine now, like, people are born that way all the time, and it stopped being newsworthy almost immediately. So, I mean,
Right quick, was it Surface Tension by James Bliss you were asking about? Is that the name of the story?
Reef Song.
What?
Are you thinking
Reef Song is Carol
Reef Song.
Severance's, yeah.
Frank Roberts
Yeah.
one, too.
Yeah, real world, you almost get the opposite thing. They're, glopped onto and protected thing. They're, glopped onto
Let's see.
thing. You almost get the opposite. They're, glopped onto and protect.
Gosh, I've got to say, I feel like, is my favorite. Oh my gosh, I am sleepy. My least favorite, like, filler phrase. Because every time my brain just goes, no, I don't know. You're about to tell me.
You almost get the opposite. They're glopped onto and protected.
I don't feel
we
that
have
the same
in the
way
Air
in, like,
Force.
a live
They're
conversation,
not,
but
these aren't people with real or artificial intelligences with real bodies. These are very not intelligent robots that go out and search for minds.
We were talking about that in the previous panel,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and people
People
adopt
protect
them. Yeah, and so I think that is as much a human impulse as the impulse to treat them as the impulse to treat them as bad, but it's almost always this automatic assumption that a clone or that a artificial person or that something is going to be treated as a threat.
clones, the thing about
Something is going to be treated as
the
a
thing
threat.
about clones, right? Like, we could definitely clone humans, right? Like this, we have all the technology. I think odds are actually high it's been done somewhere. But all a clone actually is it's your.
well, now I wonder if they're going to be bringing up Star Wars. Yeah, with yeah, like oh my gosh, right, with like the Clone Wars cartoon and Attack of the
But
Clones.
all a clone actually is it's your identical twin born delayed, and if you gestate your own identical twin and give birth to it, it's your kid. Even if it's genetically, it's not you. The thing that makes cloning kind of fascinating to me in terms of storytelling potential is that I cannot think of a single good reason why somebody would want to raise their clone. Like, all the reasons are bad.
Interesting bit about cloning actual technology is that when we clone cats, They do not come out as identical.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Cats, it will share the same DNA, but if a white cat is not automatically going to look like a white cat. They come out different colors. There's actual scientific research out there that your clone is not going to be identical.
no, well,
Interesting.
identical twins are often slightly.
So I don't know
Well,
if this was
identical twins are
recorded, but I'm
two.
thinking
one
about
exist.
Jurassic
It's
World.
not the same as taking your DNA and trying
That's
again.
true, that's
Because
true.
part of
Again, has some
what
challenges,
we
but-
are is our environment.
That's true.
And our environment changes us. So our clones could look completely different from
They're-
ourselves, and that would be
Yeah.
totally.
Anyway, the
This is one thing that
commentary
drives me
on
about
cloning is
clone armies,
interesting.
drives me crazy about this. I would love somebody to write clone armies where nobody looks at all alike. That they're all different looking, because they might be. They might be.
Because all those people.
Because
dream
we
of
all
clone
have,
pets.
yes, right, we all have different recessive genes that could come into play. I
Well-
mean, I happen to have one green eye and one blue eye, and it could happen out that my clone would have both green, both blue, or brown, because my family all has brown eyes.
There's a short story, I'll call you in just a second. There's a short story that I read years ago, and I don't remember who wrote it, but it's about a woman who is, she comes from a family where the woman can just give birth, parthenogenically. And she is a scientist, and her interpretation is that she is capable of cloning herself. She's had 3 daughters, and she talks in the story about how interesting it is to see the ways in which, like,
They're all
the same
different.
genes are expressed differently depending on, like, you know, who knows what. But, like, her daughters look similar to each other, but they are not identical. There's a lot of differences. So finally, the girls find out about this power, and one of them gets find out about this power, and one of them gets pregnant almost immediately. And I forgot to tell you, one of the things that's mentioned in the lead up is that they're all obsessive Star Trek fans. The baby doesn't survive. The baby doesn't survive, but it was an attempt to gestate Spock. She gives birth to her vision of a Vulcan child, has green ears, green blood, and it doesn't work because, like, Mr. Spock's physiology doesn't actually work in the real world, but he's also a boy. And, like, the mom was like, she had thought they actually couldn't give birth to boys. She had thought, like, and, like, the mom was like, she had thought they actually couldn't give birth to boys. She had thought she understood how this worked. And then the girl proves her completely wrong. And she's like, oh my God, I thought we were just weird humans. We're not.
I think the all-time great clone novel, or clone deliberately made to become a person that or clone deliberately made to become a person that had passed on is Cytine.
Yes.
And CJ Cherry is very honest about all the difficulties of trying to raise a clone born at a different time in a different situation. Raise a clone born at a different time in a different situation to be as much like you as possible. And it's a fascinating work.
Harry, can you call us?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting my duties here.
It's also true that right now, the cloning technology we have
Duties here.
It's also true that right now, the cloning technology we have, the cloning technology that gave us Dolly, is not really what we meant by cloning when we read about it in the 1970s.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an
In
excellent
that
point.
it does not take a diploid cell of yours and get it to grow into an embryo. What it does is it takes, say I'm cloning Lida, it takes the nucleus,
Right.
the genetic material in the nucleus, and it puts it into a denucleated egg. I mean, as of right now, there's something magic about eggs. Because you just can't get an ordinary cell
To do
to
its thing.
differentiate into an embryo.
Right.
Right.
So if I tried to clone Lida, The mitochondrial DNA. The mitochondrial DNA would be different from yours.
Right,
I feel okay
and I
about
think
that.
that's what I'm talking about with the cats too.
Yeah, that's,
Hope
I
that
the only way
was
to
and
actually
growing
make
in
it
humans, that's pretty freaking magic.
Yeah,
You have to understand what mitochondria does, right? You understand what the Krebs cycle is?
and denucleate.
excuse me a moment, let's,
Then we might get a real.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Huh.
oh, yeah, well, I think this is interesting.
Far down the
The
rabbit
science
hole of
road,
science
yeah,
and
this is interesting,
It's
but,
interesting, but I think
Yeah.
it's quite
Let's see, what,
There is something called the Krebs cycle. It's what the mitochondria does. And basically what it's doing is creating a molecule called ATP. And this is the energy source for your body. So this comes from the mother, right?
Yeah.
Because it's probably a captured bacteria that we got a long time ago. But that's what that mechanism is. So if you do clone somebody and you don't carry the mitochondria over, its DNA is different. However, it's not going to express itself in terms of the characteristics of the individual, probably not, but who the hell knows?
yeah,
It's
that's,
involved in energy, right?
okay.
And which the environment impacts that.
Right.
Just excuse, we'll take the guy with his hand up first, thank you.
Sorry.
The other thing is by taking the DNA out of the nucleus and putting it in the egg, you don't recreate the telomeres on the ends of it. So you have a short telomere sequence.
Well, this has gone way the heck away from
Yeah,
artificial
that,
humans.
yeah, there's more science on
say.
that. But
Yeah.
I think we're getting.
and I apologize, I did start down
we're going down a
rabbit
clone
hole,
rabbit
yes.
hole. So let's see.
But are they people? Let's get back to
Yeah.
that.
Clone rabbit
Yes.
hole. So let's see.
But are they people? Let's get back to
Yeah.
that.
I had a thing about when you guys had mentioned that on your previous panel, when, people are protective of their, the robots that they use to sniff out landmines, or
Yeah.
the bomb sniffers for the police departments use and stuff. But to my mind, the way that they feel about them is the way we feel about pets. Yeah.
Mhm.
They don't feel it or treat it as a human being. They treat it as
Like a cat or
Like
they
a
will
cat or a dog.
anthropomorphize it a little bit, but we do that with our dogs and
Well,
our
I
cats.
think though,
And have feelings for them. And almost everything I've ever read, that has the almost everything I've ever read, that has the androids and stuff in it is, yes, we do tend to treat things that we create, they can love these people who are instead gestated in birthing tanks, instead of by a human mother. Where they've tried to recreate it as closely as they can, the environment of a female's womb, but they don't do it, but it's close. And even feel affection for their own clone that they want to use as a replacement. But to me, every time I read them, it's more like the affection feeling is not what we feel for another human being. It's what they feel for a pet or a beloved family member, but not their child.
I'll say, I feel like part of, with the robots that people treat like pets, part of it is that you circumvent that people treat like pets. Part of it is that you circumvent, when it doesn't look human, you circumvent the uncanny valley problem. The uncanny valley, and I feel like the uncanny valley is relevant here because it's going to be a lot easier to not treat somebody like a person when there's part of your brain that is very clear that they're not. And like a human-looking robots like hit the uncanny valley really hard. They're really, I've seen videos of robots where it's like there's something really creepy here. Like it's close enough to be incredibly creepy in a way that R2 is not creepy. R2D2 is adorable, totally adorable. C-3PO is cute. If it's not at all human, it does get categorized more like cute animal, and you think it's really cute. And if it closer it comes to looking human, the the creepier it is.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. I was going to also say, you can say for some people it may also be easier on their own psyches. Some people it may also be easier on their own psyches, not see them as humans, but as more as pets.
Yeah.
Like, so after I learned the Mars Curiosity rover sang "Happy Birthday" to itself, I started crying.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, now it sings and it's abandoned on Mars.
I know, right?
And it was supposed to be done so many years ago, and now it's lonely. I want to send somebody there to keep it company now, but
Give it some birthday cake for crying.
yes, yes.
And Stanley Kubrick pulled our strings very strongly with that, and the scene of Hell's lobotomy. Yeah, singing.
Yeah, I mean, I actually read an essay by somebody who was like, why you shouldn't feel sorry for curiosity. It was like, no, this is the robot that has been given the opportunity to do what it was built to do. Like, in as much as if you imagine it having a consciousness, imagine that it wanted to explore, and it is still out there exploring. How cool is that? Outlived all expectations, still sending us information. That is so cool. But don't feel sorry for it. Celebrate it.
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
kind of just like, oh.
Yeah, Bridget Landry was telling us about, she talked to a class of kids and she was telling them why curiosity was going to be left on Mars. And the kids all started to cry because they didn't want it to be abandoned there. Because she had to make up something and say.
I do wonder, can we get rid of these little clicks without...
Be left on Mars. And the kids all started to cry.
Yeah, I actually feel pretty good about that.
Because they didn't want it to be abandoned there.
Yeah,
Because she had
tell them
to make up something and say, well, in the future somebody's going to go to Mars, and then maybe those people will bring it back and put it in the Smithsonian, and then you can go see it.
They totally will. I mean, let's be honest. Eventually we will have a human staffed mission to Mars. There will be a there and back, and they will totally get curiosity and bring it back because,
Our spirit
Or they'll build a museum on
So
Mars
you're in
for it.
favor of raping Mars cultural heritage?
Yeah.
our spirit and the other robot we sent to Mars still working? Spirit and Opportunity are both still working?
No.
Opportunity.
Okay.
And it's only got 2 working wheels.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, back there.
Well, I think Lynn was murdered.
What?
I think the guy over there was murdered.
Go ahead.
I heard on National Public.
Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna place a marker there.
Yeah, back there.
Okay, there we go. We're just gonna.
Yeah, back there.
I heard on National.
Okay. But I think.
Okay.
Yeah, back there.
Okay.
Oh boy. I think I hear somebody coming up, and that's maybe not awesome, actually. It's a rough night of sleep in our house last night.
Okay.
Yeah, back there.
I heard on National
pretty good
Public
about that
Radio
cut.
on Friday that Barbara Streisand has just had her dog cloned for the 3rd time. Same dog. And I thought that was apropos of the discussion of treating them like pets.
Yeah. What?
Going back to the some of the ideas on why we would treat.
So here I thought I was being proactive.
Artificial people as inferior human beings. Going back to the idea of why are they created in the first place? They're
Excuse me for a minute, everyone. All right, thanks for your patience with me, everyone. Both my daughters are coming up the stairs. And so I was having a hard time going back to sleep, which is why I'm here with you now. But it was kind of like having the sleep in our house felt a whole lot like having a newborn baby in the house again. So I wanted to try to get them back to sleep for a little while because we've got kind of a big day as a family. So we've got about 10 minutes more of audio to get through. So let's maybe just keep plugging at it here. Whoops. There we go.
Slaves for somehow they're cheaper labor, because I mean that's typically how they're presented, especially in the older science fiction. And when you get right down to it, when you had slavery in the United States, you had people who were, they've been with a family.
See if that Campbell pays off.
And in city, this is in Clifford Simac City, or maybe
Yeah.
thinking of.
Sounds good to me anyway.
But you have robots that have basically been with the family forever, and that's still the same sort of situation that you had with slaves in, let's say, the 1800s, that they were with the family altogether. They were treated as part of the family and all that, but yet they were still inferior, and they weren't seen as being able to go off on their own because they're our property. And again, the artificial people, are they going to be the property of the company that makes it or sells it to someone?
Under slavery, people literally sold their own children. Like there were slaves who were, fathered by their owner, and they did not protect them in any way. So humans are awful. Like I'm totally down with stories that assume that we would use these technologies in horrifying ways, because we've been horrifying historically.
I think
much.
A lot of what happened, I think
Been horrifying historically.
I think a lot of what happened was due to the culture of slavery, and that if you don't have a culture of slavery,
Let's see here. How does that sound?
Culture of slavery
a little
to
better.
Build on, or even an antipathy towards slavery, which you do in some places, you may not get that. There's one other story that some places you may not get that. There's one other story I think I should mention is Ray Bradbury's "I Sing the Body Electric." Yeah, it's a very quaint tale. Yes.
I wanted to mention Westworld, the modern series.
Oh, yes. Another great example. Or pause. So we have cameras here in the house. I'm just gonna peek in here on the kids. Just take a hot minute to do that, because Mom. It seems to me that perhaps my insistence that they go back to bed is actually paying off. That's good news.
Quaint tale. Yes.
I wanted to mention Westworld, the modern series. where the androids were created so the humans could torture them. Essentially. Shoot them, kill them, do whatever they wanted with them. And the more intelligent they were, the more human they seemed, so the better it was for the humans to do them in.
Sort of the gladiator.
Humans to do them in.
Sort of the gladiator thing. The ancient Rome was awful.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to bring up the Borg and see what you guys think about that. It's one of the most famous kind of
Biological creation.
Are they artificial people though? Because
There's meat there, I mean.
yeah, but the Borg have to come from biological parts first and then get assimilated.
Right, good point.
Who built the first Borg?
Not really sure about that.
But they're, are they, so that they become created when they become assimilated, because they become Borg at that point, right?
Well,
Think of it that way. I
in
don't know.
the hold on. Either the first or second season, when they first encountered the Borg, because it was second season because Guinan was there and Q was being a dick. They encountered
This way.
they encountered the first Borg cube. They were checking it out, and Riker opened up a dresser drawer that had infants in it. That had the infants were, flesh colored instead of pale, but also had some Borg implants. They said that there were some Borg implants. They said that there were biologically born and then slowly added to the collective later, whereas the rest of the Borg are just whoever they're able to capture and then assimilate from there. I never really consider them as artificial people, but people who are then
Artificialized.
kidnapped people.
Right.
That's me.
Yeah,
I'm with
we
Justin
are,
on that one with the Borg.
I think 12 minutes before the hour, and I see people, drifting off to do other things at 3. So I think I'm going to ask the panel for summaries, and then we'll let you all go. Let's start with Catherine.
I mean, it depends on the terms of the creation.
Let's start with Catherine.
I mean, it depends on the terms of the creation. If it's basically to replace man or humankind or as explorers, people can be really nasty. But if you were putting yourself in a robotic body in order for exploration, it might be a little bit more different, but it's going to be the purpose of the story. And
Yeah, well, I don't know, we never get a chance to explore the ideas of why we might create artificial humans. And as somebody who is a lesbian mom, I can tell you that there are times in which making children is kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things we never talked about, but like the technology caught up to us what we wanted to be able to do. So, I don't know. I don't have thoughts about that other than it would have been interesting to talk about that a little bit, like other reasons why we might choose this route for the future to create artificial people.
The Lois Bajol's Miles Mercazan series, people have commented that sort of the core technology, the biggest and most important technology to that universe is the uterine replicator, the artificial uterus that allows babies to be gestated without a woman having to actually do it inside her body. Frankly, having done pregnancy twice, I'm all for this technology.
Yeah, right.
Bring it on.
Yeah, it is.
In the Honor Harrington series, it's a book series by David Weber. In one of the books, they do talk. In the Honor Harrington series, it's a book series by David Weber. In one of the books, they do talk for a moment about cloning, and they. for a moment about cloning, and they say that according to the Beowulf Code, that clones are treated as the child of whomever they are cloned from. And I've always taken that to be that most clones, except for those who are Mason slaves, are there because someone wanted to have a child and decided instead of finding a surrogate, just copy themselves and had themselves. Kind of like Jango Fett.
Right.
His child was Boba Fett.
I was kind of surprised we didn't talk about the Clone Wars at all and the clone culture of the Star Wars universe, but...
And then also Data, Lore, and B4. Soong wanted artificial kids. He also wanted to show that positronic brain could work, but he saw them, or at least he saw Lore and Data, they didn't really get into B4, as his children, and called them that they were his kids. And Dr. Graves called Data his grandchild because Graves taught Soong everything he knew. So I just figured it's another form of reproduction for people who aren't assholes.
Hey now.
Yeah.
Yes? Lol.
Yeah. Susan Kelvin in the Asimov robot stories had very maternal feelings toward her creations. I think one of the reasons authors make artificial people is that it's maybe easier to make some comments about human nature with them as the foil than otherwise, and also to exploit the uncanny valley and to get a little more emotional reaction from their viewers or readers, as the case may be, by using this sort of person in the artificial, in the uncanny valley. Yeah, I think it's a fascinating thing, and we didn't really have time to get through it all of it. But we are at our end now, and thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. Just ditching the rest of that. So I'm kind of reflecting on this, like, here, and actually I'm done sharing my screen, so I'm just gonna bring all of this over and kind of do like the end of episode stuff, right? Like get the edited file to Justin and whatnot. But while I do that, I'm thinking kind of about that commentary that they had at the very, very end about okay, sorry. About replacing people with uteruses with just like gestational sacs. And yeah, of course, as you all know, if you've been watching these every week, I have 3 children and I have grown all 3 of them in my body. And I love my kids and they are super wonderful. But being pregnant is definitely, it's not my favorite thing. But upon reflection, I don't know that I'm actually in the camp where I would in fact be in favor of like a gestational sac. But here's why. Right? Like I think we all, maybe we don't all, but I view climate change as something that's a really significant problem that we should have done something about it, frankly, well before my lifetime, and I'm 34. But we definitely got to start doing something about it now. And as they were talking about in the panel, humans are kind of terrible a lot of the time. Like, that's just how things end up rolling. which stinks. But if we, gosh, I would be super interested to have a discussion about this with somebody. One of the things that I think that we need to do about global climate is, frankly, stop making so many people. And I realize it's irony here, so, don't come at me. But if we remove some of the human discomfort from creating a new person, are we just going to keep exacerbating the problem of climate change? Create more and more and more people. Because I think that could be a very weird, honestly. So I guess those are my 2 cents thing. So now that we've kind of made it to the end of our editing session, one thing that I just wanted to make sure to mention is that next Friday morning, September 23rd, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, in the United States, I'll be doing not a long live like this one, right? We're not going over an hour. To just a little bit outside of podcast editing, but as a working parent, what are some of my tips and tricks for making this happen while I also have a regular full-time job? So I'd love if you could join me. You can, if you're watching this on Twitch, this is not going to be on Twitch. It's going to be on YouTube, and it's also going to be on LinkedIn. So I'm just real quickly here. Just pop up in the chat the link to my YouTube channel so that you can, if you want to tune in there, then you totally can. And I think that's it. So I will see you on Friday, but I will also see you next Saturday morning. So until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.